Have you ever wondered why any stat just works in Elden Ring, but in any other game, the imbalance between the stats seems pretty apparent? Or why physical builds feel just as varied as spellcasting builds? That is because Ashes of War fixed Elden Ring. May seem like a bold claim, but let me explain. However, first I would like to ask you to subscribe and hit the like button. I know this is a new channel and any support you can offer would be greatly appreciated. Thank you and enjoy the video. It is no surprise that weapons in games are basic. The limited options are not easy to remedy simply by swapping the weapons, and while swinging the weapons around may seem like a valid enough way to play a game, as an advocate for new and entertaining builds, meaningful choices are what makes these games fun. Elden Ring was going to be faster and flashier than any game that came before. As an evolution to previous games, spells were inevitably going to get much more flashy and a lot more powerful. And with this adds the opportunity to widen the power gap between physical stats and casting stats, especially when casting builds are given comparable weapons. A common trope to remedy this issue is typically to nerf the casters, as we see in Dark Souls 3. But Elden Ring went in a completely different direction. Instead of taking away from the casting builds, they decided to add similar tools and abilities to these physical builds. Weapons with special abilities are nothing new to Soulsborne games. Hell, the Drake Blade is the first weapon that comes to mind. In Dark Souls 3, every single weapon actually has a special ability of some sort. That being said, this is not a good example of customization, as this could be prohibitively expensive. But unlike Ashes of War, these cannot be added or swapped to different weapons, meaning that you're only limited to that one weapon. In order to get multiple skills and multiple abilities, you're going to have to go for multiple different weapons. This can get prohibitively expensive, especially when you compare to spells. When you get a spell, you have it and it's there for good. To swap a spell, you just go to a bonfire. There is no need for upgrading, unlike the weapons. And in Elden Ring, you see a very similar dynamic with the Ashes of War. As long as it makes sense to put on the weapon, you could put any Ash of War on that weapon. You don't have to try to waste your time and money to build a whole new weapon only to be disappointed by the skill, giving you a new level of customization that we haven't seen in previous games. This versatility has become so iconic and now defines that it almost dominates combat and gameplay within Elden Ring as a whole. And while it still might seem like casting builds have the advantage, which they absolutely do, they still have to share the same FP economy as everyone else. That blue bar is no longer going to be a waste attribute for any physical build. This also narratively balances out all the stats in Elden Ring and sets up a new precedent for fantastical abilities with dexterity and strength builds. And given these fantastical abilities to dexterity and strength builds, sets up a new precedent that they could be giving legendary weapons such as the boltofgransax's ancient lightning bolt and the rune's greatsword wave of destruction. While there might be an argument not to give fantastical properties to dexterity or strength builds, I would argue that measuring everything up to the levels of realism in a fantasy game is bad for the genre. To give layers of versatility in one and not the other isn't healthy. While maybe versatility is never going to be equal in these games, it does leave the game with more meaningful decisions that are nearly on par with each other, rather than obsessing and overhyping one concept over the other. In reality, being smarter or being zealous isn't going to result in you having magical powers or the ability to shoot thunder from your fingertips. All of this is why I believe there's a masterpiece to make Ashes of War very similar to spells, yet very distinct in their own way, to the point where they would not eclipse the uses of spells while still allowing for you to be relevant within the game, playing whatever build you want.